Dave, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Pleasure.
Maybe for people who aren't already familiar with Little Monsters, you can just give us a brief intro. What's this film all about?
Well, the quick pitch, and certainly the pitch that I gave when we were trying to get this movie up, is it's a kindergarten class who find themselves caught in a zombie apocalypse, and the kindergarten teacher has to stop them from being eaten by the zombies, but also stop their minds from being corrupted by the horrors that are around them. So she pretends the whole thing's make-believe.
And what gave you the idea for this? What was the inspiration?
The inspiration came from my son's first year of kindergarten. So at the time, he was 4 years old when he started kindy in Australia, and he's got a number of kind of quite severe food allergies, and he'd never really been out of my care before he went to school, so it was a really terrifying thing for me to hand over his care to his teacher, and she had to look after him quite specifically in terms of managing his allergies, but also I saw how she opened up his world for, to the world sort of outside of me and, his family. And it made me realise how important teachers are, specifically kindergarten teachers, and what they give us and our children. So the movie's a bit of a tribute to them, but it's also like it's a love letter to my son as well too, and it's got a lot of very specific things that he taught me about the world. And so it's kind of a combination of those two things.
And where do you see that it sits in terms of genre, and where do you take some of your inspiration from? It's kind of like comedy, zombie film. Where do you see it?
Look, I never intended to make a zombie film. It was just zombies were the best way of kind of sort of encapsulating what I wanted to say, using something that we were familiar with. We're kind of in saturation point with zombies, or we have been for a while, so it was kind of easy. You basically all you need to know now with zombies is are they fast or are they slow? That's all the explaining that you really need to do. So it was using something that was kind of familiar, a genre that has become familiar, but then trying to, ultimately it's not a zombie movie, it's a movie about a lot of other things, but I know what it's about to me, and I know really what people have been connecting with this story, which has been really sort of heartening. But it's a movie about childhood and what kids can teach us, and the best of behaviour, the way a child sees a world, and the way adults can see the world, and maybe we'd be in a different situation if we saw the world through the eyes of a child. So it's about the best of human behaviour and the worst of human behaviour too, with some of the other characters in the movie.
So it's perhaps playing on some of the tropes of zombie films.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
But kind of delivering actually quite a different movie than maybe people expect.
Yeah, and I think it's important if you are going to sort of set something up as a certain type of thing, you have to obey the rules of that to be able to subvert them. So, we tried to make it feel like it was a big budget movie that had come out of a studio, but then subverted it with some surprising and some more shocking things that happen in the movie.
Have you seen pretty much all zombie films? Is it? Shaun of the Dead might be an obvious.
Well, Shaun of the Dead gets mentioned basically every time we talk about this movie. But it gets mentioned for a reason. It's like the high watermark of zombie comedy. So I would, be foolish of me to think that wouldn't happen, but it still happens.
Yeah.
No, but Zombieland gets brought up a lot as well too, and I love Shaun of the Dead, but this is very, very different sort of to those movies. It's less of a kind of the thing is, Shaun of the Dead is also like a romantic comedy in its own way as well too, and look, I had a 24-hour flight recently, and I'm not making any sense now, and I'm just realising that, so I apologise.
And talk me through this cast. Lupita seems to be like she's just like on the ascendancy, or however you want to put it. With Josh Gad as well. So how did you have this film in mind? How did you get them on board, and how did you work with them to deliver your vision?
Yeah, well, Lupita and Josh didn't get involved because they wanted to come to Australia and make a low-budget zombie movie. So, they were both ultimately, for me, the two people that were so right for their respective roles. Lupita was the first one to get involved. We'd just started pre-production. We had 7 weeks before we started shooting. Our US casting agent, we had a list of all these people that could have played Miss Caroline. That would have been great. But our casting agent said, look, now's the time. if you just want to take an unrealistic swing for the fences, we've got a couple of weeks up our sleeve. Who is like the ultimate person that could play this role for you? And Lupita was that for me. My 5 producers, everyone agreed that it would be incredible if she would do the movie. No, all of the producers said, "There's no way in hell she's doing this movie, though." We get this, and that's just because it felt like she was unattainable because we were such a low-budget film. She had just happened to, she'd just done a big budget film, and she'd just happened to have said to her agent that she wanted to do something completely different. She wanted to do something unexpected. She was looking at doing comedy. Her agent put the script in front of her and said, "Well, look, it doesn't really get more unexpected than this." She just connected with the character and what the movie said, and so within 24 hours I was having a Skype with her, and then woke up the next day to the news that she was on board. So, but she was attracted to the things that my son taught me, which I've articulated in this movie. There were things that attracted Lupita in the same way to what my son had taught me. So it was like it was a really good endorsement of what I wanted to say with this movie, and it really, for my crew and all of us, it was like, yeah, this is the movie that we were setting out to make. So. And that helped us then to be able to. This was a really hard movie to shoot. It was 11 5-year-old kids basically they're in 80% of the movie. So having Lupita on board and Josh, along with everyone else, meant that we were a united front in order to be able to make this movie about these kids, but kind of protect how they were and capture that on camera.
And I think we're almost out of time, but just very quickly, how does it feel to have the film here at London Film Festival?
Oh, look, it's great. Actually, quite honestly, it's really great because I've spent a lot of time in London. I lived here for a couple of years. I grew up on British comedy, Monty Python, Rick Mayall and Adrian Edmondson, Young Ones, Blackadder. This is my upbringing is through British humour. So for me to be able to come here and show this movie to the British crowd, it's actually really significant and really exciting for me. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, and congratulations on the film. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.